So, what if the way we've all been taught to read the Bible is missing a huge piece of the puzzle? The whole idea behind this explainer is that there's a massive cost to forgetting the one thing its original authors just took for granted, their supernatural worldview.
I mean, come on, you know what I'm talking about. You're reading along and you hit these passages with strange spiritual beings or bizarre events or entire sections that just feel disconnected and frankly weird. If that's you, you are not alone. And the perspective here is that this isn't a flaw in the text, it's a fundamental gap in how we, in the modern world, understand it.
And this quote right here, this is the absolute core of that gap. This single assumption that the physical world and the spiritual realm were constantly interacting was just second nature to the biblical writers. But for many of us today, it's almost entirely foreign. They saw a world where heaven and earth were woven together, and forgetting this, as our source claims, well, it changes everything.
So, let's get into it. What's the first major consequence of this disconnect? The very structure of the biblical story starts to, well, fall apart.
Instead of this single, sweeping epic, the Bible can start to feel like a random collection of unrelated stories, moral fables, and a list of doctrinal bullet points. You know, the thread that's supposed to connect Genesis to the prophets and the prophets to the mission of the church, it just seems to vanish. It's exactly why a story about a guy wrestling with a divine being by a river can feel so totally out of place.
So what exactly is this missing thread? The source calls it the conceptual environment, which is a fancy way of saying it's the operating system the entire biblical narrative was designed to run on.
And let's be clear, this worldview is about so much more than just believing in angels and demons. It's a way of seeing all of human history as one small part of a grand spiritual drama, a cosmic battle for the rightful rule of all creation.
In this drama, it has a full cast of characters. The biblical writers didn't see God as some solitary ruler. Nope. They saw him as a king presiding over a heavenly council. Think of it like a divine advisory board. But they also believed that some of these spiritual beings rebelled, that they were given authority over the nations here on earth, and that this cosmic conflict is playing out right here, on the stage of human history.
Okay, so what happens when this entire framework just fades from view? What our source suggests is that there's a really high cost, and it impacts some of the most central ideas of the faith.
First, as you can see here, the story itself just falls apart. What was once this unified cosmic drama about God reclaiming his creation becomes what we see on the right, a choppy, disconnected collection of moral lessons. The grand narrative just gets lost.
Second, the gospel message itself actually shrinks. The proclamation of a cosmic victory, the restoration of God's kingdom over all of creation, well, that gets reduced to a very personal, private transaction. It becomes about individual forgiveness and basically getting a ticket into heaven.
And the third major consequence? The church's very identity shrinks. Instead of being an outpost of a cosmic kingdom actively confronting spiritual powers, it can be seen as just another social institution for worship and moral teaching. Its cosmic purpose gets downsized.
Okay, so that's the problem. It sounds pretty bleak, right? But the source is really clear. This is not a lost cause. The story can absolutely be restored by putting this missing piece back where it belongs.
You see, when you put the supernatural worldview back in place, it's like you found the key to a secret code. All of a sudden, events that seem totally random start to connect. The rebellion in Genesis, the struggles of the prophets, the mission of the church, bam! They all snap into place as part of one single coherent story.
And right at the center of it all, Jesus' life and work are seen in a completely new light. His death and resurrection aren't just about atoning for personal sin. They are the D-Day invasion, the decisive, history-altering turning point in the cosmic war to reclaim all of creation.
So why is this more than just some interesting theological exercise? Well, the source argues that forgetting this worldview has very real, very practical consequences for people living today.
This slide here shows just a few of the downstream effects. I mean, think about it. When the cosmic story is lost, discipleship can lose its urgent, world-changing mission and just become about self-improvement. Faith can turn into a mental checklist. Fear of the culture can grow, and materialism can easily creep in when the focus is no longer on an eternal kingdom.
So ultimately, this isn't about becoming obsessed with angels and demons. The real goal, according to our source, is to use this worldview as a lens, to see the entire biblical story the way its original authors did, as one epic, unified, and cosmic narrative.
And that leaves us with a final thought to really chew on. What actually changes, for you, for me, for everyone, when the goal shifts from simply escaping Earth to get to heaven to participating in a mission where heaven is actively invading and restoring Earth. It's a question that completely reframes the entire purpose of the story.